Welcome back, everyone, to Emotional Edge, where every story dives straight into the heart of courage, loyalty, and the secrets that time tries to bury. Today's journey begins deep in the Appalachian Mountains, where silence hides more than peace, and one man's solitude is shattered by a single, haunting discovery. This is a place where fog clings to the trees like memory, where footsteps echo against the weight of the past, and where the bond between a soldier and his loyal German shepherd will be tested beyond survival. If you love stories that stir the soul and keep your heart racing until the final frame, you're in the right place. Now let's begin. The forest is waiting. Thank you for watching this story on Emotional Edge, where every tale reminds us that kindness, courage, and loyalty still matter. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your support helps us keep sharing heartfelt stories that bring warmth, hope, and humanity back into our world. From all of us here, and from every loyal dog and quiet hero we honor, thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for being here with us. And now, let's continue our story. Former Special Forces soldier Ethan Hale had chosen exile over chaos. Deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, his cabin stood alone among whispering pines and cold streams that washed away the noise of the world. Each morning began the same: black coffee, a silent nod to his German shepherd Shadow, and a long walk through the mist-veiled forest. The dog was his only companion, a muscular sentinel with steel-grey fur and eyes the colour of amber. Together, they had built a rhythm of solitude, a fragile peace bound by routine. But that morning, Shadow broke formation. Halfway along a familiar ridge, the dog froze, ears forward, body rigid, a growl rumbling from deep in his chest. Ethan's instincts sharpened instantly. The air around them had shifted. He followed Shadow's stare down into a narrow ravine and saw a flash of black metal wedged between the trees. It took a moment for the shape to resolve itself into a car, a luxury sedan, crushed and mangled, one door hanging open like a wound. No road led here. The forest had swallowed it whole. Moving like a ghost through the undergrowth, Ethan studied the scene from above. Drag marks scarred the slope. Tire grooves carved the soft earth, and broken glass caught the pale light. The forest was too quiet. He felt it in his bones, the stillness that comes after violence. Shadow whined softly, glancing back as if asking permission to move closer. Ethan knelt, hand on the rifle slung across his back, eyes narrowing. Whoever had driven that car hadn't just crashed, they'd been forced off the ridge. The wilderness had tried to hide the evidence, but some secrets refused to stay buried. As fog crept through the trees, Ethan understood that his peace was over. The forest was calling him again, not as a sanctuary, but as a battleground. That night, the dream returned. Sand, gunfire, and the hollow echo of a child's scream. Ethan woke drenched in sweat, the cabin's shadows pressing close, the fire long gone to ash. The steady rhythm of Shadow's breathing grounded him. Morning came grey and brittle, mist curling between the pines. He returned to the ravine, drawn by instinct and dread. The wrecked sedan waited like an open grave. Moving in tight, controlled steps, he examined the ground. 2 sets of tire tracks, the first from the car, the second, wider and deeper, from a heavy off-road truck that had rammed it sideways. Near the twisted rear door, 2 spent shell casings glinted faintly under the leaves. Close by, the earth was disturbed, clawed and scraped as if someone had been dragged away. Ethan's throat tightened. He had seen this pattern before, long ago in places that stank of smoke and iron. A struggle, a capture. No survivors. Shadow sniffed the air, body tense, nose turning toward the eastern slope away from the vehicle. Ethan followed his gaze. Logic told him to follow the tire marks, clear, predictable, human. But the dog's instincts whispered something else, something older. In the war, trusting a dog had saved Ethan's life more than once. He crouched, brushed his hand across Shadow's neck, and said quietly, "Lead the way." They crossed the stream, and entered the denser forest, where sunlight barely reached the moss-covered ground. Birds went silent. The silence thickened, unnatural, heavy as fog. Then Shadow halted again, before a wall of vines draped across a dark hollow in the rock. He growled low, cautious but certain. Ethan raised his rifle, peered into the shadows, and spoke in the steady tone of a man who'd faced too many ghosts. "It's all right," he said softly. "If someone's in there, I'm not here to hurt you." The answer came not in words, but a tiny, frightened gasp from inside the dark. Ethan lowered the weapon and knelt, speaking gently. "It's okay, kid. You're safe now." From behind the tangle of ivy, a boy emerged, thin, dirt-smeared, his face pale beneath the grime. He couldn't have been older than 10. His jeans were torn, his hoodie stained with blood, and his left leg was bound with a strip of fabric soaked through. Shadow immediately went still, tail low, eyes soft, sensing fear not threat. Ethan poured water into a small cup and pushed it forward. The boy hesitated, then grabbed it, drinking so fast he choked. "Name?" Ethan asked quietly. "Milo," the boy whispered, his voice raw. Ethan's eyes swept the area, no other tracks, no signs of pursuit, then turned back. "Where's your family, Milo?" The boy trembled, words coming out broken. His father, Jonah Park, was a reporter investigating corruption in the county. A man named Vernon Pike, a commissioner involved in illegal dumping and land theft. Men in a black pickup had chased them off the road, firing shots. Jonah had been dragged away. Before they took him, he shoved something into Milo's jacket pocket, a small flash drive, and told him to run to keep it safe. But Milo had fallen, torn his leg, and lost the jacket. The sound of baying dogs echoed faintly through the trees. Ethan's gut turned cold. "They're hunting us," he muttered. He doused the embers of his fire, scattering dirt and leaves over the ashes. "We move now. Stay close. No noise." Shadows circled once and took point, nose to the wind, guiding them toward the stream where running water would drown their scent. Milo limped, but didn't cry. Ethan carried him across the rocks when he faltered, the old soldier's strength steady as the forest darkened around them. The boy clutched Ethan's jacket and whispered, "Will they find us?" Ethan didn't look back. "Not if we keep moving," he said. "And if they do, we'll be ready." The chill of the stream cut through their legs, numbing feet and fear alike. They moved for miles through water and stone until the sound of dogs faded behind them. At the bend of the river, Ethan stopped, motioning for silence. He gathered plantain leaves, crushed them into a green paste, and pressed it gently against Milo's swollen wound. "Old trick," he murmured. "Pulls out the infection." The boy winced but stayed quiet. When the wind shifted, Shadow's ears flicked. He led them uphill toward higher ground, where an old fire watch tower stood silhouetted against the bruised sky. Its steps creaked beneath their weight, the air inside thick with dust and time. Ethan barred the door with a timber beam and lit a smokeless fire in an old stove. Warmth seeped slowly into the room, replacing the forest's damp chill. Milo ate jerky with trembling hands, while Shadow curled nearby, eyes still scanning the darkness beyond the door. In a corner, Ethan found an ancient Ranger radio, its casing corroded but intact. He cleaned the terminals, checked the wires, no power. Still, he set it carefully on the table, a dead hope waiting for a spark. Night came heavy. Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, staring into the embers, memories clawing up from the past. His last mission, the sound of a child crying amid rubble, the guilt that had driven him here. Now, another child slept only a few feet away, trusting him. Outside, wind howled through the pines, carrying the echo of distant whistles. Shadow's head lifted once, then settled again. The forest was alive, but it was watching. Ethan reached down, resting a hand on the dog's fur. "We'll keep him safe," he whispered. Shadow's tail thumped once in silent agreement. Somewhere below, the hunters moved in the dark, but for the first time in years, Ethan felt something stronger than fear, a reason to fight. At dawn,
This is the
Ethan
best
packed their
approach.
supplies with quiet efficiency.
We need to move quickly,
The
but
boy's
carefully.
fever had broken, but his strength was thin. They needed shelter, food, and a plan. Hiding forever was death by inches. He taught Milo what he could: how to move silently, how to breathe with the forest instead of against it. The boy learned fast. Later that afternoon, Shadow returned from scouting with something clenched in his teeth, a heavy leather glove stained with oil and tobacco. Ethan took it, frowning. The scent was recent. He crouched, showing it to the dog. "Find him,"
Like
he
this,
said.
Milo. Keep your
Shadow
weight
growled
low,
low,
and don't snap the
turning his
twigs.
head east. The enemy was close. That night, under the lantern's flicker, Ethan spread an old map on the floor and traced the ravine's path. "We can't keep running," he said. "We go back. The proof your father hid. It's still there." Milo hesitated, eyes wide with fear and courage tangled together. "You mean the car?" Ethan nodded. "Exactly." The boy swallowed hard, then nodded back. "Okay." For the first time, Ethan smiled. "That's brave, kid." He spent the night preparing, checking his rifle, tightening straps, wrapping Shadow's paws in cloth for silence. Before dawn, he looked out from the tower's window toward the forest that had both trapped and protected them. The mist was lifting, pale and ghost-like. He could almost hear the ticking of the hunt tightening its circle. But Ethan Hale, who had once given up on the world, now had something to protect. That changed everything. They left under a moonless sky, the forest black and breathing. Shadow led, moving like smoke through the trees, pausing to listen at every sound. Milo followed close behind Ethan, mimicking his steps. The night was a single, endless heartbeat of fear and focus. Once, far away, a sharp whistle pierced the air, followed by the frustrated shouts of men. Ethan grinned faintly. One of his traps had worked. They were chasing ghosts. Hours later, the ravine emerged ahead, a yawning wound in the earth. They crawled
Left
along
flank,
the western
uphill.
slope, the steepest, hardest way in, the one no sane man would take. Shadow froze near the crest, body pressed to the ground. Ethan peered through the ferns and saw a figure below. One of Pike's men, Harris, the dog handler, posted on a rock outcrop with binoculars. His bloodhound lay beside him. There was no way down unseen. Ethan's mind raced. He reached into his pack and pulled out the stained glove. "You remember him?" he whispered to Shadow. The dog growled softly. Ethan pointed south toward another ridge and made a hand signal. "Distract." Shadow licked his hand once, then vanished into the darkness. Moments later, barks erupted from the south. Harris leapt up, cursing, grabbing his rifle as his hound lunged forward. "Movement on the south ridge!" he shouted into his radio. Within seconds, the clearing was empty. Ethan and Milo slid down the slope, dirt and leaves flying underfoot, their window of escape bought by the courage of a dog. At the bottom of the ravine, the wrecked sedan loomed like a black skeleton. The air smelled of rust and oil. Ethan scanned the shadows, every muscle tight. "Stay behind the rocks," he told Milo. The boy nodded, clutching his small backpack. Then Ethan saw it, a scrap of blue fabric caught on a branch. The lost jacket. He moved quickly, snatched it, and shoved it into the boy's hands. Before relief could settle, a cold voice slid through the darkness. "Well, look what we found." Vernon Pike stepped out from behind a tree, flanked by 2 armed deputies. His smile was all arrogance and rot. "You should have stayed hidden, soldier. Nobody cares about ghosts like you." Ethan said nothing, just studied the terrain, calculating. Pike motioned lazily with his pistol. "Drop it.
It's working.
Hand over the kid." Instead, Ethan raised his rifle, but aimed not at Pike, but the car. The shot shattered the windshield with a thunderous crack. Glass exploded, echoing through the ravine. Pike and his men ducked instinctively. Ethan sprinted to the hood, pried it open, and ripped free the old battery. With frantic precision, he connected the radio's power leads and jammed the antenna wire into the spark plug socket. Sparks flared. A faint hum answered. He pressed the transmitter. Static screamed into the night, raw, broken, but alive. "What the hell is he doing?" Pike roared. "Get him!" The deputies fired, bullets tearing into the metal frame. Ethan shielded Milo with his body, still hammering the button, sending bursts of desperate noise into the air. And then, from the shadows, came salvation. Shadow, charging like a grey missile, jaws locking around Pike's wrist. The pistol flew. Chaos exploded. Pike howled, swinging wildly as Shadow clamped down, the dog's teeth buried deep. The deputies hesitated, startled. Ethan pivoted, fired a warning shot that cracked into a tree above Pike's head, showering him with bark. "Next one doesn't miss," he growled. Then, faint at first, came a new sound. Sirens, distant but approaching fast, slicing through the forest like a promise. Pike's eyes widened. He looked at the radio, still hissing static, realization dawning too late. "You called them," he hissed. "You son of a—" Before he could finish, the first beam of headlights swept through the trees. State troopers poured into the ravine, guns drawn, orders sharp and professional. Pike froze, bleeding, the arrogance draining from his face. His deputies dropped their weapons. Ethan kept his rifle steady until the officers surrounded them, then slowly lowered it. A greying captain stepped forward. "State police," he said calmly. "Can someone tell me what the hell happened here?" Ethan pointed to Milo. "He can, and this can prove it." He handed over the dirt-stained jacket. The captain reached inside and pulled out a small flash drive sealed in a plastic pocket. "That's your evidence," Ethan said quietly. "Everything you need." Pike's arrest was quick and silent. The forest, for the first time in days, exhaled. The memory card was a bombshell. Footage of Pike's men executing a federal informant and a recording of him ordering Jonah Park's kidnapping. That night, a SWAT team raided an old barn on the county's edge and found Jonah alive, bruised but breathing. At the hospital, father and son clung to each other in tears while Ethan and Shadow stood back, watching like ghosts at the edge of a better world.
"I think we'll be okay."
When Jonah turned to thank him, Ethan only nodded. "You saved him," Jonah said softly. "You saved me." Ethan shrugged. "He saved me first." Months later, autumn painted the mountains in fire and gold. The old ranger tower was no longer abandoned. It was home. Jonah's work took him far, so Milo stayed with Ethan, studying survival, learning patience, growing strong. Shadow lay in the sunlight by the porch, older but content. Ethan still carried his grandfather's rifle, but its weight felt different now, not a weapon, but a promise. On clear evenings, the three of them would walk the same ridge where it all began, the valley below glowing in the last light. The nightmares still came sometimes, but they no longer owned him. The ghosts had quieted. He had found something better than peace, purpose. And as the wind whispered through the trees, Ethan finally understood what the forest had tried to tell him all along. We are not healed by hiding, but by protecting something worth saving.